Welcome to Hour 3 of The Truth with Sherwin Hughes. I am happy to have candidate for superintendent of the Department of Public Instruction, Brittany Kinser, in studio. Welcome to where I work, Brittany. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me here, Sherwin.
I want to get right into it. So a week from today, Wisconsin voters will be casting ballots in a very crucial primary for who will be the next leader of the State Department of Public Instruction. First, before we get into the details of that, why even run, right? What was your motivation for wanting to take on a statewide race to lead the Department of Public Instruction?
So I can tell the story. All right. So I've been a special ed teacher, a science teacher, an award-winning elementary school principal here in Milwaukee. And now I am running an initiative called 95 Wisconsin. And 95 Wisconsin stands for the fact that we know that 95% of children can learn how to read if they are taught well. And right now in our state, according to our nation's report card, only 3 out of 10 children in Wisconsin read well enough to get a meaningful job, attend college, or master a trade. And we know here in Milwaukee, it's even worse. Only 9% and only 5% of students who are Black are reading well enough to go to college or get a career.
This must be because they're poor, because that's what they keep telling us. That poor children can't learn, and so therefore we need more money to educate the children because they're poor. So your child poverty levels don't have anything to do with a child's ability to learn and learn how to read.
When a child comes to us, they have all the potential in the world. Mm-hmm. And we need to make sure that our teachers have the training they need to be able to teach phonics and reading comprehension in the early grades. And we will and yes, children can read. Yes, the research shows it. 100%. So I can get to why I'm running. So 95 Wisconsin, I brought a program that Steph Curry is funding in Oakland. He's putting in $35 million into tutoring, playgrounds, and healthy food. And Open Literacy is doing this one-on-one tutoring with students. They're seeing 2 years growth in just a semester. So I asked my friend, I said, you need to come here. We need to do this tutoring here in Milwaukee. And so we brought the tutoring, and I then am going in and coaching school leaders on how to support their teachers in teaching phonics, because we know that if they can get the good instruction K through 2, they won't need the tutoring. Okay, so DPI knows that I'm doing this. They were interested in learning more about it and possibly helping support it throughout the state. It's just some conversations. But then I find out in August that our current superintendent lowered the standards for what it means to be proficiently reading. So putting more kids into the green, right, saying that they can read. However, that's not aligned to the nation's report card, and that's not actually accurate. And the kids know that they can't read.
Can you demystify that for us? Because I heard a lot about Jill Underly lowering the standards, then the governor came out against it, and also we're shocked that Governor Tony Evers has declined to endorse Jill Underly. So when she, quote-unquote, lowered the standards, what exactly did that mean, and who did that actually help?
So that means they lowered the cut score for what it means you can be called proficient in reading. However, and so by doing that, you're putting more kids into this bucket saying that they can read, even though we know that's not true. They don't have the skills. They even have it now. Like there's around 3,600 kids. It says they're college and career ready, but below the standard. Like it says it on DPI's website.
What's the motivation for doing that? If the kids can't read, if you lower the standards, and it's a false sense of security.
So it makes adults feel better, right? So there were some open records requests that showed that the superintendent was told, like, if you do this, if you lower the standard, it's going to help high income areas. So, for example, the other candidate who's in Sauk Prairie, his district is 84% white, 30% low income. And when 2 years ago, their report card score was like a 61.7, like roughly, okay? MPS is 9% white, 83% low income, and the report card was 58. So it's only about a 4-point difference less, okay? We changed the scores, the cut scores, and now Sauk Prairie goes up by 5 points and MPS only goes up 0.2. So exactly what her staff had told her would happen, happened. The higher income district, their scores go up, and then the districts that have lower income do not.
So can we say there's a racial component to this, that white students are going to disproportionately benefit from these standards changing? Is that accurate?
Well, if you look at the data, that's what it shows.
Can you also explain your very complicated position on charter schools and school choice? So full disclosure, Sherwin Hughes supports any type of education delivery system that works for children and works for parents. I've only attended public schools. I've only attended public universities. However, I know that where and how I went to school does not meet the needs for everyone. I'm also not an MPS parent who may feel their only choice, because they may not have the money to move to Whitefish Bay or the money to move to a place where the public schools are very, very high performing. I think that those parents should have the ability to select a school that best meets the needs of that family and of that child. That seems to put you at odds with a lot of folks in this state, Brittany. Also, I did a poll some years ago where something like 80% of African-American parents favor charter schools and favor parental choice programs. What is your viewpoint on that, and why are choice schools and charter schools so controversial?
So I want to say a couple things before I get to that, Sherwin. I am all about restoring high standards, ensuring kids can read, write, and do math so they can get a meaningful job, go to college, or, master a trade. Part of that, so if we go back at the nation's report card, Louisiana, the things that I'm saying that we should do is exactly what he's been doing. He's focusing on the reading, the early reading, okay? He also believes in having a portfolio of options for families. And I also agree with that. Like right now, only 10% of the whole state uses the scholarship, which we call a voucher. And the rest of the state is using traditional public schools, open enrollment, homeschooling, public charter schools. I believe that parents should be able to have the option to choose the school that best meets the needs of their child, just like you said. And I think when people say they want to take away the voucher or scholarship from families, they're not thinking about the actual children, the 50,000 children here in Milwaukee that use choice. They're not actually talking to the families who are choosing a school that we call voucher.
Your opponents are going to say that those scholarship/voucher programs take money away from traditional public schools. The way I see it, or at least how I understand it, that MPS had $300 million still unspent. They asked for an $80 million referendum in April of 2020. They got it. They asked for another property tax increase, another $250 million. Most recently, just last summer, they got that as well. So is that a legitimate concern? Is the district starving for money because of the parental choice program?
No, I think that MPS gets a lot of money right now to educate our children. And I don't know the exact data point, but they are in the top 5 in spending on children. I think we need to be transparent about how we're spending it. Is it going, one of my one of my issues is making sure that money gets into the classrooms and to our teachers. And is that actually happening in all of our schools? All of our school boards need to know that. And that's one of the things I want to change when I do go to DPI is making sure that we have dashboards that are really clear for school board members and community members and parents to understand so that we can celebrate our schools, but also hold them accountable.
Speaking with Brittany Kinser, she is a candidate for the superintendent of the Department of Public Instruction. Can you give folks some idea of the purview of that office, what it actually does? I think people know what the office is, but they may not know specifically what the superintendent does. And so I'd imagine you probably answered that question 1,000,001 times. We'll answer it 1,000,001 plus 1 so folks who are listening know exactly what the superintendent of DPI does.
So the superintendent of DPI sets the vision for what we should be focusing on, right, as a state in education. And so I promise that we will go back. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold, a little raspy here. To restoring our high standards, focusing on teaching reading, writing, and math so that our kids can get a meaningful job, or attend college, or master a trade, that we are focusing on partnering with our parents, making sure that DPI is transparent, it's innovative, and it's predictable, so that's an actual resource for our schools and community. So you set the vision. You also then are also in charge of the standards. So that's why I say I want to restore the high standards, all the testing, all the money from the federal money flows through DPI. And then there's some other things too that they do, but it's really, there's no one, like there's no board over the superintendent. The voters get to choose who the superintendent is, and that is who the superintendent reports to.
And this is a nonpartisan race. I think some folks may have some confusion about the partisanship of this race. This is a nonpartisan race. In fact, people that are supporting you are from all different political affiliations, correct?
That is correct. I like to say when I interview to be a principal or teacher, no one asked me what my politics or, are you a Democrat or Republican? You have to work with families no matter what, political, part that they are taking, whatever, if they're a Democrat or Republican, you have to work with all families.
All right, I want to take a break. When I come back, I want to ask you about the teacher certification process, because we are facing critical teacher shortages, and I think that as time goes on, we're going to have even deeper shortages.
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult to recruit teachers? And also, do we look at maybe incentive pay? I think if Sherwin went into the classroom, all of my children they would do very well. They would test very good on the standardized test and to get the A+ and go out and change the world. But it might be very difficult and time-consuming for me to be able to get my incredible skill set into the classroom. So we'll talk about that on the other side. In studio is Brittany Kinser. She's a candidate for the Department of Public Instruction Superintendent. 1 week from today, Wisconsin voters will go out and exercise the right to vote in a primary election, and the DPI primary is one of those elections that they will see. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes. We'll be right back.